Bryan Kohberger, the 30-year-old accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students in 2022, set to make his final appearance in court before his high-profile trial kicks off in August. Dan Springer is following this. He's live in Seattle. What can we expect, Dan, from tomorrow's hearing?
Well, John, a lot depends on what happens or doesn't happen in the next several hours. Today could be a critical day for Bryan Kohberger. It's the deadline for his defense lawyers to produce evidence that someone else actually committed those shocking murders in Moscow, Idaho. In the last hearing, Kohberger's lead attorney, Ann Taylor, said that they had a tip they were following up on. They also have an expert witness who will testify he believes there were 2 different murder weapons used based on the injuries to Kaylee Gonzalez, one of the 4 victims. But Judge Stephen Hippler said the defense must produce actual evidence of an alternate perpetrator by today, just ahead of tomorrow's hearing, which is the last one scheduled before jury selection in late July. Meantime, Dateline reported last Friday that Kohberger called his father back in Pennsylvania 3 times soon after the murders and just before he took this selfie in his apartment the same morning. According to the report, they were long calls, each one lasting more than 30 minutes, with the first one just 2 hours after the murders. Michael Kohberger was reportedly back in the family home in Pennsylvania, where his son would be arrested in late December. A gag order on all involved in the case remains in effect, and we have not been able to independently verify the Dateline reporting. But another revelation in that report is that Kohberger's phone pinged a cell tower in the area around where the murders took place 23 times in the weeks leading up to the murders. The police affidavit put the number at half that. Kohberger is scheduled to have his trial begin on August 11th. John?
All right, Dan, we'll be watching all the action there. Thank you so much. Sandra?
All right, for more on this, let's bring in our legal panel. Heather Hansen is a trial attorney, and Dmitriy Shakhnevich is a criminal defense attorney. Thanks to both of you for being here. So what do you expect, Heather, from his date in court tomorrow ahead of the summer trial?
I expect a lot, Sandra. There's so many pieces of evidence that they're trying to determine whether or not the judge is going to let in. Everything that Dan just mentioned, they are all facts in this case, but it's not all going to make it to evidence. The judge looks at these things and sees whether or not the rules of evidence, and there's hundreds of rules of evidence, allow for these things to come in. They do it before trial to make sure that the jury doesn't hear things that they shouldn't hear at trial and to streamline the process. So we'll see some rulings on the evidence. I think that they will also talk about jury selection, which will be a very long process in this case. And as Dan mentioned, this idea that the defense has of another perpetrator will probably come up tomorrow as well.
Pretty remarkable, the reporting. Dmitry, welcome to you, by the way. That the Dateline reporting that there was a phone call made after the murders, and reportedly that phone call was to his father. Obviously, that would be key to understand what happened in that phone call. But I mean, there is so much from the crime scene. There are surveillance cameras. There are phone logs, a term paper that he wrote concerning crime scenes. This is just going to be massive when it begins this summer.
Look, in every trial, we have this push and pull. The prosecution tries to push in as much of this evidence, information, purported evidence that they possibly can. The idea here is for the judge to balance, as the law puts it, the probative nature of the evidence and its prejudicial effect. How useful will the evidence be? Whether it's the telephone records, whether it's all this other stuff, or will it hurt him such that it may taint a potential guilty verdict moving forward?
We'll be watching for all of that. Meanwhile, a Los Angeles judge has resentenced the Menendez brothers. This makes them eligible for parole after serving prison time for the shotgun murder of their parents at their Beverly Hills home. This goes back to 1989, Heather. This is the LA District Attorney Nathan Hochman reacting to that ruling yesterday. Listen here.
Shooting your parents to stage it like a mafia hit, through the back of the head to the dad at point blank range to the mom and through the kneecaps after they're dead, methodically pick up all the evidence and dispose of it right after the killings. I think that's wrong in 1990, 1989, the mid-90s when they were tried, and it happens to also be wrong in 2025.
Okay, they are now ages 57 and 54, Heather. We know that they admitted to the killings of their parents, but they insisted that they did this out of fear that they were going to kill them following years of abuse. Will they walk free?
I mean, that doesn't have so much to do whether they'll walk free as how they have acted in prison, their age at the time of the sentence and their age now, the time served, and also their risk to the public. The parole board has been doing an investigation into that, and the report is done. We understand from the DA that they have said that they are a moderate risk to the public. That is not the full report, which remains to be seen. But I do think, given that both Governor Newsom is looking at potential clemency, and now you've got the resentencing possibility here that is wide open to them, I do think that the chances continue to go up and up and up with every step that we take in this case.
Okay, Dmitry, this is the Menendez family attorney, Mark Garagos, reacting to the ruling yesterday. Listen here.
We have evolved. This is not the 90s anymore. We have a more robust understanding of a lot of things. Their trauma has become kind of the subject of prurient interest, but they are a real family, real people who have lived through unimaginable horrors, and I'm hopeful and glad that we're one huge step closer to bringing the boys home.
Okay, I know you were having a hard time hearing it, but his point was we have evolved. He said this isn't the 90s anymore. We have a more robust understanding, he says, of a lot of things. He talked about their trauma has become kind of the subject of interest here. So where do you see all of this going with the Menendez brothers?
It looks like we're heading towards their release at some point in the near future. Look, it seems, and the reason why so many people are upset about this is because it seems that Hollywood kind of ruffled some feathers, and after a trial verdict so many years ago, after 2 trials and a competent defense, the general public, not folks who are involved in the justice system, seem to think that these are 2 rich kids getting off while you have so many men and women warehoused around the country. And will they get out? It looks like they will at some point soon. Whether or not that's right or wrong is different question, but it seems like we're headed in that direction.
Very interesting. Dmitry, a pleasure to have you here today. And Heather, thank you as well. We'll be watching all of this.
Thank you, Sam.
All right, John?
Sandra, the hypersonic arms race